count on LEX-18 News.
A historic night in Kentucky. Matt Bevin adds a new title to his resume.
The next governor of the Commonwealth of Kentucky, Matthew Griswold Bevin.
The Bluegrass has its first African-American state office holder as the Democratic Party seemingly has a meltdown.
LEX-18 News at 11 starts now with special coverage of this.
Good evening, I'm Kevin Christopher.
And I'm Nancy Cox. Thanks for joining us at 11 for tonight's Decision 2015 coverage. For just the second time in 4 decades, Kentucky elected a Republican governor tonight. Matt
Bevin surged past his most recent poll numbers for the 8-point win, with nearly all the precincts reporting. Bevin holds 52% of the vote to 53 rather now to 44%. A margin some Democrats are blaming partly on the popularity of another political outsider, Donald Trump. Independent candidate Drew Curtis got 4% of the votes statewide.
And despite neck-and-neck results in the last few days of polling, Bevin surged past Conway this election day.
Breanna Gilroy has been live at Bevin's headquarters all night in Louisville, and she joins us with the details about tonight's celebration. Bree?
Well, as Matt Bevin told supporters tonight, it was a great evening to be a conservative in the state of Kentucky. Now, the room here has quieted down quite a bit, but earlier tonight, the Galt House was booming as the governor-elect gave his acceptance speech. Matt Bevin never lost his confidence. He said earlier this morning that he was going to win despite trailing in the polls. And guess what? He was right. When he took the stage just after 9:15, along with his family by his side, he gave thanks to his supporters and also had nice words for his opponent. Bevin's speech was short and sweet, but uplifting. He said the hard work is still ahead of them, and he wants to take a bipartisan approach because, in his words, we are one Kentucky. Bevin added, this is the chance for Kentucky to have the fresh start he believes Kentucky needs. But he also got some laughs, joking about another Matt Bevin, the one plastered in attack ads over the past few months.
I know that many of you are weary of turning on your TV and seeing my evil twin. And so, I just want you to know I have asked him to move out of Kentucky. I have asked that guy. I don't know who he is exactly, but he's been up to no good apparently, and he's been giving me a bad name.
Truly a historic night for the Republican Party. As we mentioned earlier, Matt Bevin is only the second Republican as governor in the state and over the past 40 years. Covering the news live in Louisville from the LEX-18 mobile newsroom. Back to you.
The mood was far more subdued at Jack Conway's campus. His long and expensive campaign ended in defeat.
Leigh Searcy continues our coverage from Democratic headquarters in Frankfort.
Well, crowds came here tonight expecting Jack Conway to be Kentucky's next governor. But when much of the state went red, this entire room was in disbelief. Just before 9 o'clock tonight, Conway made his first appearance of the night. The room was quiet as Conway and his family made their way to the stage. He says he called Matt Bevin minutes earlier to congratulate him. This is what he told him.
A few moments ago, I placed a call to Governor-elect Bevin and wished him well. It was a cordial phone call. I told him that I remain positive about moving this state forward, and that if he ever needed any assistance, that this Democrat was at his disposal.
And of course, Conway thanked all of his supporters, but before he stepped off the stage, he looked at his 2 small daughters and told them, Daddy's going to be home a lot more now. Covering the news in Frankfort from the LEX-18 mobile newsroom, back to you.
It was no surprise for the independent candidate in the race for governor tonight.
But as LEX-18's Jessica Reyes explains, for Drew Curtis, this election was about more than a victory.
It's possible to make a dent with very little resources.
But tonight, the dent was not big enough to make a difference in the race for governor for the Lexington native and owner of the website Fark.com. Drew Curtis says the reason he ran in the first place was to make a statement.
As a result, win or lose, you can impact the entire process in a very, very positive way. And so that's why I would recommend people take a shot at it, because again, if we don't do this ourselves, who will?
Curtis says while he didn't walk away with the victory, this experience has been worthwhile and believes his goal to bring change was accomplished.
A number of people I've been reading on Twitter and Facebook today that tell me they voted for the first time today because of me.
Curtis hopes his race has inspired others to follow in his footsteps.
We can sit around and we can complain about how things are, or we can stand up and we can do something about it. And my recommendation would be to people at home who are capable of doing something like this, you should try to get involved.
Covering the news in Lexington, Jessica Reyes, LEX-18 News.
The entire nation was also watching Kentucky's governor race and the way Matt Bevin's campaign won it.
LEX-18's political analyst Bob Babbage is here with why what happened tonight is part of an anti-establishment wave, Bob.
We're seeing this in the Republican debates, in the Democrat national primary as well, with Bernie Sanders, Donald Trump, Carly Fiorina, Ben Carson. Those who aren't in the voters' minds are getting the attention, and they're at the top of the polls. So all this time that Conway was ahead in that Bluegrass poll, and those folks may want to take another look at their polling, there was this notion that something was out there. The Obama factor, the voter anger, the anti-establishment mood, overall something percolating with voters that certainly showed up in the vote today.
Talk about the difference in the money spent here. As we said earlier, whoever spends the most money usually wins. Not tonight.
Right. You spend the most, you win the most. That's pretty much the rule. And we go for experience a lot. We say we're dissatisfied, but still voters vote for experience. They did not today. They picked for governor someone who's been involved in politics really for just a couple of years versus someone who's been involved for 20 years. All in all, people have said Kentucky is trending Republican. Remember, this was the only Democratic governor in the South, and Governor Beshear. We have the only Democratic legislative chamber in the state house, and that will be up for grabs next year. It'll certainly be affected by tonight. In 5 weeks, Bevin must take office, must put a cabinet in place, and must start moving toward a budget with Senate President Stivers, who was on the stage with him tonight, and House Speaker Stumbo, who had a much different message over at the Democratic Party.
An interesting postscript: for the second time, Jack Conway loses a huge political race to an outsider.
Very good point. Having won twice statewide himself for Attorney General, having run before in Louisville, having that Louisville base, and a big Louisville vote. But this is a year of what ifs. What if there had been a real Democrat primary? There was none. What if the Republican primary had not blown up as it did? So you come to tonight, a much different turn of events. We've only elected 4 Republicans since World War II broke out, and that happened today.
We'll be talking about this for a long time,
Indeed.
Analyzing it. Thank you, Bob, so much for your assistance tonight.
Thank you again.
Well, we have been tracking the results of dozens of other races across the Commonwealth.
Some surprises here, too, including some other tight races. Democrat Andy Beshear, Governor Steve Beshear's son, has beaten Republican Whitney Westerfield after an extremely tight race for Jack Conway's Attorney General seat. Democrat
incumbent Secretary of State Allison Lundergan Grimes defeated Republican challenger Steve Nipper 51% to 49%. And in Lexington, James Brown took 82% of the vote for the Urban County Council's 1st District. The results for all of today's races are running at the bottom of your screen. And if you'd like a closer look, just check our coverage of Decision 2015 on LEX18.com.